I get it, when you're thinking about splurging on a big-ticket grill, you're half thinking about the tasty meals you'll make and half worrying you'll end up with a pricey paperweight. A few weeks ago, a good friend of mine was on the fence about stepping up from his backyard kettle to something that could actually give him that authentic wood-smoked flavor without building a whole fire pit. He was scrolling through options, reading a mountain of reviews, and keeping one thing front of mind. Will this thing actually deliver on the hype, or am I just paying extra for a fancy name? Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. That's the exact spot the Traeger Woodridge Pro lands for a lot of people. It's the first Traeger model that's big enough to handle a turkey or a whole slab of ribs, yet it packs a Wi-Fi controller that promises you can set the temperature from your phone while you're still at work. The promise sounds great, but the real question is whether those features translate into day-to-day convenience and consistent flavor, or whether they become more of a novelty that you'll ignore after a few cooks. Let's start with the core promise: wood-fired flavor. Traeger's whole brand is built around the idea that burning wood pellets gives you a subtler, more complex smoke than charcoal or gas. In practice, the Woodridge Pro's Super Smoke mode really does let you push a low and slow cook for up to 12 hours, which is perfect for things like brisket or a pork shoulder. I saw a couple of users post videos where they set the grill to 225F, loaded a 12-pound brisket, and walked away for most of the day, checking in on their phone to make sure the temperature stayed steady. The meat turned out tender with that characteristic sweet sap flavor that only wood can provide. If you're the type who loves the ritual of pulling a tray of ribs out of an oven and feeling a little underwhelmed, the Woodridge Pro's ability to maintain a low, even heat without you having to tend a flame is a genuine time saver. Now, about that Wi-Fi. The grill comes with the Traeger app, which lets you adjust the temperature, set timers, and even get alerts if the pellet hopper runs low. For most people, that's a nice perk, but there are a few practical considerations. First, the Wi-Fi connection can be a bit finicky if your backyard is on the edge of your router's range. Several owners mentioned having to relocate their router or use a Wi-Fi extender just to keep the signal stable. Once you have a solid connection, though, the app is pretty intuitive. I liked being able to set the grill to smoke mode while I was still making a side salad, then walk back later and see that it had held a perfect 225F without any manual tweaking. If you're comfortable with a bit of tech and you already have decent home Wi-Fi coverage, this feature adds genuine convenience. If you're not into fiddling with apps or you live in an area with spotty internet, you might find it more hassle than help. The cooking space is another major draw. At 970 square inches, the Woodridge Pro can comfortably handle 2 full-size roasts side by side, or a whole turkey on a rotisserie plus a couple of side dishes on the lower rack. That's a step up from the smaller Traeger models that start to feel cramped when you try to feed a crowd. The extra space also means you can experiment with indirect cooking zones, one side for a low and slow smoke, the other for a higher heat sear. A friend who loves hosting weekend barbecues said he was able to smoke a half slab of pork ribs while simultaneously grilling chicken thighs on the opposite side, all without any temperature swings. That kind of flexibility can turn a regular backyard get-together into a multi-course feast without needing a second grill. On the flip side, the pellet hopper holds about 20 pounds of pellets, which translates to roughly a day's worth of smoking before you need to refill. If you're planning a marathon cook, think a full 24-hour smoked pork butt, you'll need to keep an eye on the hopper level, especially if you're not near an outlet. The hopper isn't hidden. You can see the pellets, which is handy, but it also means the grill can look a bit messy when the pellets start spilling over the edge after a long cook. Some users have mentioned that the hopper lid can be a bit stiff to open when it's hot, so you might want to give it a quick press before the grill gets too hot if you're planning a quick refill. Another practical point is the learning curve around pellet selection. Traeger sells a range of wood pellets: hickory, mesquite, apple, cherry, each promising a different flavor profile. The Woodridge Pro works fine with any standard 6mm pellet, but if you want to dial in a specific taste, you'll end up buying a few different bags. That's not a huge expense, but it's something to keep in